Today we are looking at the UNISA Theory of Music Grade 2 past paper from October 2023. So before we hop right into question 1.1, I just want to point out that I have previously made a video on a Grade 2 Theory of Music past paper by UNISA. I looked into the February 2022 past paper and I have linked the video below in the description, so you can go ahead and check that out and be more informed regarding UNISA past papers. Okay, so on to our first question in this past paper. In 1.1 they ask of us to write the letter names of the following notes. Now of course at this level we are only still dealing with treble clef as well as bass clef. So as you know, you would need to orientate yourself around middle C in order to answer questions in both clefs. Because if we are not piano players, odds are that we only use one of these clefs, and we do need to know the notes and note names in both clefs. So if we orientate ourselves around middle C in both the treble and bass clefs, we will be able to find our notes. So first things first, they do give us a question in the treble clef, something a little bit below middle C, so we're going to go ahead and count backwards. If the line here is C, the space below it will be B, and the line below that would be A. This is something on an A. Of course, we see our flat there, so this will have to be A flat. And if we do play in the treble clef and we do play an instrument like the violin, perhaps we might just be able to recognize that off the bat. Good for you. Then we have the bass clef. Yet again, if we're not a bass clef player, we really do need to go ahead and understand our middle C. This is something above middle C. If this is middle C, this line there, above it would be something on D, above it would be something on E. So this is an E sharp, and I'm going to just write it over there. Of course, on the paper itself, you will need to answer all questions in pencil, and they do give you a line on which to write your note names. So according to this method of working out your note names, whether it is just by looking at it and recognizing it because you play in that clef, or whether you're orientating yourself around middle C, please be sure to answer the next three questions. Question 1.2 has everything to do with grouping. So we are asked to rewrite the following exercises in which we improve the use of notes and rests. So here we go, grouping. You either love it or you hate it. Let's make sure we love it. So they basically write things in a very ugly manner. We need to write it in a very pretty style so that we would be comfortable sight reading it. Okay, so they do give us a treble clef before the time signatures. I left it out here because clefs don't matter. We're really just dealing with rhythm here. So we're going to go ahead and answer these questions. First things first, we will need to know the outline of our beats. So in 9/8 time, we will need to understand that we are going to be dealing with 3 dotted crotchet beats, and we need to then see our dotted crotchets and group accordingly. Okay? If we don't know that, then we won't be able to answer our question. So do understand what all of your time signatures mean. So 9/8 means you are in compound triple time and you have 3 dotted crotchet beats. 6/8 time, you have 2 dotted crotchet beats. So you're in compound duple time. 4/4 time, our old favorite, we are in simple quadruple time. We have 4 crotchet beats in a bar. No dots here. Simple time has no dotted beats. We have 4 normal crotchet beats in a bar. So that is what we will need to be seeing. Right now, my beats are not aligned, but we will get there when we get to each question. So do be sure to either outline your beats in pencil above your questions or your answers, or do make use of the draft paper that UNISA provides for you right at the end of your exam booklet. You're able to scribble, scrabble, whatnot there. So please be sure to use all of it. Do your rough work, and if you do make use of this draft opportunity, your final work will be neat, systematic, and correct. So, according to 9/8, we need 3 dotted crotchet beats. Now, what's happening here? Everything is tied up in a big fat semi-breve, and we have a lonely quaver. Now, we do know that our compound time signatures can be divided or subdivided into subdivisions. So for instance, 3 dotted crotchet beats will split itself up into 3 groups of 3 quavers each. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's what gives us our subdivisions in 9/8. So of course this is equal to 1 beat, another beat, another beat, and if we look at this lonely quaver, it basically takes up this quaver. So for instance, if we're unable to solve from the beginning, let's solve from the end. For instance, this has to be then on its own, it can't go anywhere else. We have to just put our lonely quaver there. And just by eliminating the quaver, we see that this whole semibrief is just tied up with the rest of the subdivisions, the rest of the beats. So actually, we can go ahead and tie a long note together according to beats and subdivisions of beats. So of course, when it comes to beat 1, we have to write down a dotted crotchet. Beat 2, beat 3 is almost complete. It just will have to be minus a quaver here. So we're going to put in a crotchet. And we have a beat 1, a beat 2, then a beat 3. And we just have to make sure that these are tied together, because that will make a long note. It will sound the same as what they have written down for us in an ugly fashion here. So be systematic about it. Know you need your 3 beats. And right here, I'm going to get a different color so that we can see our 3 beats. We have our beat 1, correct. We have our beat 2, correct. And we have our beat 3. Okay, and that will be our correct answer. So let's go ahead and answer our 6/8 question. I'm just going to erase some of that over there. Our 6/8 question, we already now know that 6/8 has 2 dotted crochet beats. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the previous exercise. We outline our beats, and we can also, for compound time, outline our subdivisions. We know we need 2 groups then of 3 quavers that are grouped together. We are not yet to compose, so we definitely don't want to change what's going on there. We just want to write it better. So I can't change anything to do with my dotted quaver. That's quite fine. The rest is fine. And then I can add this quaver over here, because together that will lead me to have 1 beat of a dotted crochet in 6/8 time. Then all I'm left with are these 3 quavers that are actually grouped together, and 3 quavers are actually equal 1 beat. So we can just go ahead and make our 1 dotted crochet beat clear. So this will be our answer for 6/8. In 4/4, we have 4 beats. Nice and easy. We don't even need to go ahead and subdivide or do anything in subdivisions because we are in simple time. So what I'm noticing here is that a crochet beat already exists there, a crochet beat exists there. So I can go ahead and put in beat 1 and beat 4, which are already properly grouped. We can't do anything with those. So now we need to change what's going on here. First things first, that's not grouped very nicely. We have a quaver tied to a semi-quaver, and we know that we can just have a dotted quaver in that regard, and then beam it to a semi-quaver. So we have that's beat 1, beat 2, and then beat 3 is over here, and we can just go ahead and beam those together as they are equal in value. We have 4 semi-quaver values, 3 of them are notes, 1 of them is a rest, but we can beam those notes together because they are all of equal value in the beat, within the beat, the rest as well as the notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in our 3 semi-quavers, followed by our semi-quaver rest. So there you have it. Grouping is all about mathematical, systematical workings out. So all you need to do is be very systematic here, and you will get your 6 marks for question 1.2. In 1.3, they give us 2 bars of an opening rhythm, and we are asked to add 2 bars or to complete the rhythm. So they do allot us 4 marks here. What we need to do is just add 2 bars, and then we need to phrase our music accordingly. Now, we don't have to go ahead and be a dramatic composer here. We want something short and sweet and regular phrased, like We want something cohesive because we only have 4 bars here. We can't go crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste bar 1 into bar 3, and we're going to have a very long note right at the end. So the longest note value that you can think of in your time signature, go ahead and put that right at the end. Remember, pitches don't count here, so whatever they give you, if it's a space note or a line note, just copy what they give to you. In this example, they do give you a treble clef, which I have once more left out because that does not matter here. What we're going to do is think of our longest note in 6/8 time, which is a dotted minim, or we can go ahead and tie together 2 dotted crochet beads. They are both correct, and different composers and or writers do it a bit differently, but I'm just going to go ahead and do what I originally did and add a dotted minim. Then we're going to copy paste bar 1 into bar 3. So we have a crochet, a quaver, we have a dotted quaver, beam to a semi-quaver, and a normal quaver. And there you have it. So you have something, a little bit something different, something that's familiar, and an ending note, because we only have time for that. Then we're going to go ahead and phrase our first 2 bars that they have given us, and we're going to phrase our answer. And all of this in total will give you 4 marks. Question 1.4 asks of us to transcribe the following 2-bar melody from Solfa notation into staff notation. So they give us a few important clues. They tell us do is F. They give us 2 bars as they promise us, and then they do show how many beats we have in each bar. So in this grade, we're only going to work with 2/4 or 3/4. So we need to check if we can fit in 2 crochet beads or 3 crochet beads in this example. So these colons will give it away. We can fit in 1 bead there, another bead there, and another bead there. This means that we are in 3/4 time, and we definitely need to go ahead and fill in both our key and our time signature before we fill in actual notes. So I've gone ahead and already put in a B flat there for F major. Then we are going to put in 3/4. The reason we know we are in F major is because do is F. So it means our tonic is F, which means we are in F major. Then we do need to know all of our notes in the key of F, and we have to understand Solfa notation. So for instance, we need to understand each of our letter names according to French Solfa syllables. If we look at la, we know that this is the 6th syllable, so we have to count up 6 notes in F major, or think about what our 6th note in F major would be. So right over here, we are given a la syllable. It takes up 1 full beat, which is 1 full crochet beat, and we are going to go ahead and put that crochet D in there. Finally, we get to work with rests. There is nothing in the space over here, which means we have a rest. So now we can go ahead and put in a crochet rest. So is just the 5th degree of the scale, and in F major, so is C. So we can go ahead and put a C crochet bead there. Then our final note is do. So of course, that is the upper tonic F. And how long would this F be? Because there is a little hyphen that indicates we continue the note. There is also an empty space in the very last beat of the very last bar. That means we are going to rest there. So we only have a minim F there. And we know it's the upper tonic because they do give us a little superscript 1. And we are here, upper tonic. We have 2 beats because it continues for beats 1 and 2, and then we have a rest there. Be sure to be very systematic here, as in all questions, because this question, if answered correctly, will give you 10 marks. In question 2.1, we are asked everything to do with intervals. So we are given a note about which we have to write the interval that they tell us to write. So out of the 5 questions, I've extracted 3 over here. We're going through 1 of each. A perfect interval, a major interval, and a minor interval. Now, when we answer this question, yet again, we have to know our keys and key signatures, because the bottom note that they give us will form as the tonic or the root of our scale. If they give us an F, we are in F major. If they give us a B flat, we are in B flat major. And if they give us a C, we are in C major. So we have to know all of our notes in that key and in that scale in order to answer these questions. First things first, we are given an F, and of course we know it's an F because it is in the bass clef. Then we are asked to write a perfect fourth above F. Now we need to understand F's key signature, and this is very important in this example specifically because the fourth degree of F major happens to be B flat. So if we go ahead and just count up 4 and we write a B without adding a flat, that is wrong because it is not a perfect interval. A perfect fourth is a B flat, and that is in the key of F. So all you have to do is think in the key of F. We can't think all natural notes because not all notes in every key will be natural. F major has a B flat, perfect fourth above F, B flat. Then we are given in the treble clef a B flat. We are asked to write 7 notes up a major seventh. A major seventh means it is in the key of your B flat note. So B flat major has 2 flats, B flat and E flat, so that won't affect our 7th note. Our 7th note above B flat is basically an A. That's fine, we don't have to chop and change or do anything, it's just an A. Then I want to show you a minor interval. We're in the bass clef here, C. We need to write a minor 6th above C. So we count our 6 notes up in C, and we are then dealing with an A. But they tell us it is minor, so we have to go ahead and just flatten that A, because a major 6th above C would be A, but a minor 6 would have to come down a notch. By a notch I mean a semitone. So we will have to flatten that A and write an A flat. So go ahead and fill in the others. The other 2 that I have left out are an A in the treble clef and then an E flat in the bass clef respectively. So you have to write a major 3rd above A and then a perfect 5th above E flat. Question 2.2 asks of us to figure the primary triads that they give us. So they will give us 3 versions of triads. So remember, yet again, we have to know our keys and key signatures here because they could either be in a major key or a minor key. But the very key thing over here is that they tell us that we are dealing with primary triads. So we can technically only be working with the tonic, which is the 1st degree of the scale, the subdominant, which is the 4th degree of the scale, and the dominant, which is the 5th degree of the scale. If it happens to be anything else, or you see it as anything else, it either has to be in the relative key or you are wrong. So we're going to go ahead and fill this out. First things first, they give us a key with 3 flats. So off the bat, we are just supposed to already know our options. It could either be E flat major or C minor. So what we're going to do is always assume in the beginning, always start working with the major. And if it's not the tonic, subdominant or dominant degree in the major key, go ahead and go over to your relative, and it should be one of the primary triads in your relative key. So we're going to start off with E flat major, although I already have an inkling that this is not E flat major, but let's go ahead and test it out. E flat major, they do give us a C. So that is the note on which the triad starts. So they give us a C, E flat and G. In E flat major, how do we get to C? We have E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. It's on the 6th degree of the scale. Is that a primary triad? No. So we're going to move over to C minor, baby C. And is C one of the primary triads? Yes, it is. It is basically the tonic. It's the 1st degree, and we need to figure it as a small tonic there. For each of these exercises, you will be getting 2 marks. So be sure to add your key and add your figuration of your chord, which is going to be a primary triad chord. So next, in the bass clef, we are given 3 sharps. So we could either be in A major or F sharp minor. Now, what gives it away is this very middle note over here. Any triad with the middle note raised indicates that it is the dominant chord of a minor key. Because where else do we have a raised something? So we are definitely in F sharp minor here. And then we are on the dominant degree because C sharp is the dominant of F sharp. And when we spell out these notes, remember to spell them out correctly in your head or on paper or in pencil or whatnot. C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. Those are the note names according to our key signature and according to what we see. Don't say that this very bottom note here is a C. It's not. It's a C sharp. There is a difference. Okay, then we're moving along to our last triad that we need to figure. We have two sharps, so we're either in D major or B minor. And like I said, let's always assume and start with the major. So we have D dot dot, and we need to figure out if we have a primary triad or not. So is G the tonic, subdominant, or dominant of D, and D, E, F sharp, G? Yes, it is on the 4th degree, so we have a primary triad here. We can go ahead and label it as the subdominant degree. Question 2.3 is the complete opposite of 2.2. Yeah, we are still dealing with triads, but they give us the key and they give us the chord. We have to go ahead and spell the correct notes. So they do give us an example. They give us an example in F major on the subdominant, and the subdominant triad there would be B flat, D, F. So if we just go ahead and look at that example, let us apply what we now know to be true. In E minor, they do give us an F sharp there. Yay, we don't have to fill in any key signatures. We just have to fill in our 3 notes. So in E minor, we are given the dominant. The dominant of E is of course B. So we need to fill out and spell a triad on B. So we're going to write B, D sharp, because E minor of course has a raised 7th as it is a minor key, and F sharp. We have B, D sharp, F sharp. That is the correct spelling of the notes. If you omit the D sharp, it is wrong, because then it won't be a major triad. Remember, a major triad is made up of a major 3rd and a perfect 5th. We do need the D sharp there. And like I said before, any dominant key in a minor will have the middle note of the triad raised. So here we had a natural D, so to speak, we had to raise it to a D sharp. In our next question, we are given B flat major, and we merely have to write the tonic. We find a B flat. We write 2 notes above on line notes, because B flat's on the line in this case. Then we're done, and we get 2 marks for that. We move on to our final question. In E flat major, they give us everything. We merely have to counter the subdominant, which is the 4th degree of the scale, and the 4th degree of E flat major is of course A flat. So we find A flat is on a space. We write another 2 space notes up. We're done, and that is question 2.3. Question 3 is all about scales. Now this question counts 21 marks in total. We're given 3 scales to write, each of which will count 7 marks. So yeah, we definitely do have to be very meticulous, and as always, we have to count on our knowledge of keys and key signatures. So they will ask us a major key at least, and at least a harmonic minor key. And then the other one, up to them what they will ask. In this very paper, they ask of us to write A major, C harmonic minor, and then again G harmonic minor. So pay attention to the instructions, whether they ask you to write it descending, so from top to bottom, or ascending from bottom to top, or both ascending and descending, which will be bottom to top and then again top to bottom. They might even throw you a descending and ascending, which means it'll start at the top, go to the bottom, go back up again. But I've never seen them ask that in a paper. But you never know. Be prepared and really do follow the instructions there. What we do need to know here is to outline our key signature if they so ask us to write the scales with key signature. And in this very paper, they do. They say to us, write the following scales with key signatures, use semi-brief, nice little fat notes, and then we need to indicate each of the semitones that do pop up in a certain scale with a slur, which is an interesting practice to do. We can indicate semitones in many different ways, but UNISA does ask of us to indicate it with the use of a slur. In major keys, our semitones lie between degrees 3 and 4, as well as 7 and 8. And in a harmonic minor key, the semitones will lie between 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. What's important to remember is that you need to fill in your key signature first. So we're going to go according to what we know about this past paper. They ask, write A major descending. That's the very first question here. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in our 3 sharps that we know exist in A major. They ask of us to write a descending. So we're going to start at the top. We find our A, we write 8 notes down. We put in our semitones between 3, 4, and 7 and 8. And then we're done. We must just remember where 3, 4, and 7 and 8 lie now. Because we are descending. Don't count from your very first note, because you are actually starting on note 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So remember, your 1 is always your lowest note. So in a descending scale, you're going to have to count backwards, or rather just always start on your lowest note and you will be safe. Then our second question is C harmonic minor. They want us to go both ascending and come back down descending. So in these types of scales, because you're going up, you're going C to C, back down to C. The top C only occurs once, so we will technically only have 15 notes here. In a single octave scale, we will have 8 notes, but in a scale that both ascends and descends, you will have 15 notes. So same thing here, we will need to add in our key signature, find our low C that we want to start on. We're going to go up to our top C, down again, making sure that we hit all our lines and spaces. We're going to raise our 7th, because that is the most important in a harmonic minor key. And here our 7th happens to be B flat, so we need to raise it to a B. Then we're going to fill in our semitones between 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. Easy enough going up, but remember how the order of your notes work when your scale descends. The lowest note is always 1, so work your way from there. The last question of our scales in this regard happens to be a G harmonic minor scale. Here they ask it to us only descending, so yet again we put in our key signature, which happens to be 2 flats. We start on a high G, we go 8 notes down, we raise our 7th, so 7th normally is an F, so we're going to raise it to an F sharp. Then we need to fill in our semitones between 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. Remember that 1 is your lowest note, and then you will be good to go. So question 4 is a little comprehension question. We sort of get this throughout the grades in UNISA papers. And we are not exempt in grade 2. Here we have an extract given to us in 6/8 time, and they're going to ask us questions about what we're seeing. So the very first question they ask of us, 4.1, what does the time signature 6/8 mean? Now we're only allocated 2 marks, so we don't have to write a full essay about what we know about 6/8. But what we can do is outline that we understand that 6/8 means we have 2 dotted crotchet beats in a bar. It also means we are in compound duple time. So any of those will give you your 2 marks automatically. I would just write down both to be safe, but either one of those will do you well. I even like to go ahead and bracket off a written out dotted crotchet on my behalf, just because, but you don't need to do that. Then we're asked another question in relation to the extract, and you can bet yourself they will always ask you a key question. So they ask us now, in which key is this piece written? Thank you for good English to UNISA. But we have 3 sharps, so yet again we did have the key A major before in this paper, so we do know that A major is an option, and then F sharp minor would be another option. But we do happen upon some raised notes there, and they are repetitive, so it's not just an accidental that doesn't come up again. This is an E sharp that repeats, so we see E sharps there. We do see that the extract starts on an upbeat C sharp, which is the dominant of F sharp, and then the very first bar starts on a low F sharp. Our very last bar in the extract also starts on a low F sharp in the bass clef, so F sharp minor. That is basically a given to us, so we can write that down. The next question, 4.3, they say name the relative major. So if you didn't know that this piece was in a minor already, this gives it away, because they won't say name the relative major if you're already in a major key, or if you are in a major key. So this just gives it away that we are in a minor key. Our key is F sharp minor, and then our relative A major. Then we need to go ahead and give the technical names for the notes they have circled, and they do give it to us in baby Roman numeral letters, and we by now need to know all of our technical names. So tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, leading note, and then tonic once more. So when we do see a higher tonic, we can just go ahead and say tonic, or we can say upper tonic. We would get our marks either way, but tonic is enough. because it's just a tonic. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the first note. We're going to pay attention to whether the note is in the treble clef or the bass clef, because they do sometimes change clefs in the middle of a line, which they actually do in this extract here. In the second line, they change the right hand part or the treble part into a bass clef. So we have a bass clef coming up there, so we do need to pay attention there. So the very first question they ask of us is to name the technical name of A, which is in the bass clef. So what is A in F sharp minor? We'll have to count up there. So F sharp, G sharp, A. It's the third, which means we are on the median. And this is how we're going to approach all of these questions. I'm going to skip some there, be sure to answer them for yourself, but I'm going to skip to one where they change into the bass clef in the right hand or treble clef line. So Roman numeral 3, they give us a D in the bass clef. So yes, it is in the right hand line. It started off being in the treble clef, but now it's in the bass clef. So a D. What is D in F sharp minor? So we have F sharp G, A, B, C sharp D. That is the 6th degree of the scale, and then we have to know that that is the submedian. So we'll go ahead and write that down. So as I said, the rest, feel free to do that. This extract does change once again in that very line back to the treble clef. So be sure to be very meticulous about these things. They literally give you 2 lines of piano music. It's not a lot to go through. So be sure to go through it systematically and maximize your knowledge, maximize your marks in this case. Question 5, we have to transcribe, which asks of us to be very systematic once more. I think I've said systematic many times in this video because that's what music and music theory in particular calls us to be. We need to pay attention to every minute detail because this is music. So question 5.1, transpose the following melody an octave lower, pay attention to that, into the F clef, which is also the bass clef, pay attention to that. And then remember to add the key signature. Now what they don't tell us, but what we need to know, is that we need to add just everything. We can't just add the key signature. Yes, they give us the clef, in case we didn't know what the F clef was. They wrote it out for us, bass clef. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and fill in the key signature. The time signature, we need to fill in every little marking that they give us. If there were phrase markings or any staccatos or any accents, we would have had to fill it in. We definitely need to go ahead and fill in the composer as well as the tempo or character indication or even the indication of what this is. So they do tell us we have a polonaise, that is a stately dance, and that is what we're going to write in at the beginning as well. Every little detail counts, and we are expected to write out a very neat extract, adding in our own bar lines, adding in everything, and we will then be awarded with 10 marks if we so do everything correctly. So what we're going to do, first things first, we're going to understand what an octave lower means. So if we're starting on that G on the line in the treble clef, this is our starting note, and we're basically going to have to transpose this an octave lower already in the treble clef for ourselves so that we can understand what that means. So for instance, this is a dotted quaver attached to something else. I'm just not writing the attachment. So this is our G, basically the lowest note that a violin can play. For instance, a G below middle C. If we were to write that very G, which is already an octave lower, into the bass clef, what would we get? We would get the G below middle C, because that's what this is. Remember, orientating ourselves around middle C will definitely help us in all regards. So the G below middle C would be this one. So we will go ahead and fill in a dotted quaver G attached to a semi-quaver A right at the beginning. And this will be right. As long as we start here, we know what we're doing. The first bar goes G to A to B flat to C, and they're all going up in steps on the paper in front of us. So that's what we would need to do for the very first bar in the bass clef. G to A to B flat to C, and in steps. So if we start off at the right note and we start off at the right place, we will know what to do and how to do it, how to continue. So we don't necessarily need to go and transpose every single note an octave lower and into the bass clef, because that's just going to take a lot of our time, and we can actually maximize time here and spend any extra time that we do have somewhere else. For instance, if you think that you really need more time with triads, go ahead and spend it there. This is a so-called deceiving question because it is actually an easy one if you do it properly, systematically. Don't waste your time here. Just do what you need to do. Don't go ahead and transpose every single note. Think about it systematically. Start off your first note. Follow the contours, follow the lines. Check that you are writing the right note. For instance, if you have a G, make sure you have a G in the bass clef. If there's a C in the treble clef, make sure that you have a C in the bass clef, that you're not writing nonsense. And if you do that, you'll be good to go. So here we're going to go ahead and write down this melody. We're going to transpose it. We're going to do what we do. A little bit of a heads up, they do give us 2 lines. And if we are able to fit everything on 1 line, that's great. We're done and dusted. We write our etc. and we're done. We can go off to our very last question in the paper. But if we go over to line 2, we're going to have to rewrite our key signature. We don't have to rewrite our time signature, but the way in which music works is that if you go on to another line, and you'll see this in your own music, and if you didn't know about this, go look at any of your sheet music right now, and you will see it is true. All the lines have the key signature. That's just how it works. That's what we do. That's music. But we don't need to put in the time signature in every single line. We only need to write the time signature or rewrite the time signature when a new time signature is added, or if we then revert back to our original time signature. We have to make that clear on paper. But we are not changing here, so we don't have to do a repeat of the time signature. So we are going to go ahead and write down this extract. We're going to transpose it an octave lower, and we are not going to waste time. So they give us the bass clef, and if we go over, we're going to use this new line. So we definitely have to go ahead and write in our key signature. And whether or not we're going to use the second line, let's just make it a good practice to already write in the key signature there. Okay, so we have our time signature next, and we copy paste it from what we see in the treble clef version. Okay, so we find our starting note and we are on a G, and then we're going to go up from there because that's the contour of our treble clef melody. We go up to B flat, we have a C, and that is my first bar. We're going to go on, we're going to continue. We have some semiquavers coming on. Mostly we just have to make sure about our stem directions. And of course that we're hitting the right contours, that we're not all of a sudden going from C and then we think, oh, we need to write an A now, and all of a sudden write an A there in the bass clef. No, we're not going to do that. And once we've done bar 1, everything is simple. We can go ahead and see, oh yes, that original G, I wrote it as this. So if I see that original G, treble clef, this one, then I know I'm going to write it in the bass clef as this G because that is an octave lower. So our second bar then continues. We have an A, B flat, we have a C, and also just check up on this. Yes, this is a middle C. So our original question was transpose an octave lower, and in that original we can see we have a C that is over there. And if we transpose that an octave lower, we will get this, which is definitely middle C in the treble clef. And then we just write that in the bass clef, which it will also just be middle C, and there it is. So now we know we are on the right path. We can always check up on ourselves like that, but we don't need to stress for every single note, like I said. We can always check in on ourselves, see if we're doing fine, and right at the end of the paper, when we do have some extra time on our hands, we can go through little nitty-gritty things. It's good to be nitty-gritty as a music student. But right at the end, let's first get through everything. Systematically, yes, but not wasting time where we don't need to. So we're going to move on here, and I don't have that much space left here on the board, so I'm going to go to a new line. I already have my key signature written out. If I was just to go on and finish my extract, etc., I would go ahead and just erase that and all would be fine because then I don't need another key signature. But if I am using this next line, I would need my key signature. I'll put that in there and I'll continue. I am on the B flat, going up to middle C. I then have a D. I actually have a very high G. Looks particularly high for the bass clef, but don't let this fool you. Don't let this make you think, ooh, this whole thing needs to go down another octave. Because they're not asking us to write down 2 octaves. We only need to transpose 1 octave down, and we already did that. Okay, So don't get halfway through and think, ooh, this is too high. It's not. It would be too high if you actually went into other lines or into space. But this is not too high. Okay, so we have a D, a G, we have a C, a G. Make sure you have the correct amount of lines. So G would be 3 ledger lines up. Then we have a bar line. We also then have a B flat, a B flat. And we end this extract on a G. Just for interest's sake, we are actually in G minor here. The 2 flats give it away, and although we don't have any F sharps in this extract, we can be sure that this is G minor, and if this extract were to continue after the etc. part, we can bet there will be an F sharp somewhere. Now we need to add any other markings. They don't give us any articulation or dynamics, sad, but we can write in our Polonaise right where they give it to us. We're not going to write it randomly in the middle or in between the lines. We write it where they write it. Then we're going to write Petzold, who is the composer, and we'll write it in the very right hand corner where we finish. If this is the end of our page, this is where we write it. And all this systematic working will give you your 10 marks there. Our very last question is question 5.2, and here we are asked to give the meaning of terms. So in this paper you will most likely only get grade 2 terms, but please do catch up and brush up on your pre-grade 1 as well as grade 1 terms before you go into your UNISA exam. Because they can ask you anything and you never know when they decide to change up the papers, and it is good knowledge and good practice for you to be able to recall all your musical terms and signs that you have done before up to including now. Yes, they only award us 1 mark for each of the terms that they're going to ask us, but let's be systematic here. They ask us 6 in total, so we will be getting 6% here if we do get this question correct. So first things first, they ask us con, which is a combining word. It means with. Then da capo al segno, it means repeat from the beginning up to where you see the sign, the segno. Then we have tenuto, which means hold a note for its full value. So held or held for its full value. For instance, if we have a tenuto over a crotchet, we will have to hold it for a full crotchet beat. We're not going to interpret any spaces or rests or nuances there. We will hold it for a full crotchet beat. Forte piano means loud, soft, or play loud and then immediately play soft. So you start off loudly, you immediately go into soft play. Then we have leggero, which means lightly. So we are going to be playing lightly when we see this musical term come up. And then the very last question of this entire paper actually is the term alla Marsella, which is in the style of a march or march-like. So there we have it, the full October 2023 past paper for the UNISA Theory of Music Grade 2 level, and I hope that helps you with your preparation for your UNISA Theory exam. And remember to always play from original sheet music and to make your mark on original music sources.